Hello, I'm Lee Rathbone, otherwise known as Lee Rathbone. On Twitter, I am at Villabone. I am a tester by trade. I've been doing testing. I haven't even had a beer yet. I've been doing testing for 20 years across 10 different companies. And in that 20 years, I've seen many things happen in our trade of testing. And one of the things I've seen evolve and change over the last sort of 5 years has been the phrase and the way of testing called mobbing. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to have some beers as I do that, if that's okay. And I'm going to start with this beer, which is called, it's from Roosters. It's a collaboration from Roosters Brewery with Magic Rock. It's called Northern Powerhouse. I don't know what the hell it is. It's about 4.5. But with a name called Northern Powerhouse, it better be bloody good. But anyway, I'm going to drink and talk at the same time. So, don't you just love that sound? I'm going to pour it into a glass that I've borrowed from Centre Parks. I'm going to give it back one day, but until then, it's mine. So, let's talk about mobbing in Agile and in testing. So that people have different meanings of mobbing, different definitions, and there's loads on the internet you can go after. There's testing experts that have done their videos, they've gone to test conferences and spoken about their take on mobbing. But what I want to do today is give you my take and my thoughts on what makes a good mobbing session, what mobbing actually is, why you should do it, and the challenges in doing so. But before that, I'm going to see what this Northern Powerhouse beer is all about. That's actually all right. There's loads of grapefruit in that, it's really fresh. So, in Agile, testing changes. In Agile, there's more of an opportunity for testing to be more collaborative, for the right people to test at the right time. And really, testing is owned by everybody. So if you're a developer, you should be checking and testing your work. If you're a UX designer, surely at some point during the creation of the feature, you want to go and have a look and see whether what you created at the beginning, before it entered the development stage, or even entered the 2-week sprint, what it looks like during that, and then what the customer gets. Surely you want to go in and check that. If you're an iDev and you've done your creation, surely at some point you want to go and see what it looks like. If you're a developer, and sometimes in Agile you have a team of probably 2-3 developers in an Agile squad, then you're all creating your own siloed bit of code. Surely at some point you want to go and see what your code looks like when it interacts with everybody else's work that they've done in order to create value for their customer. So mobbing is an opportunity for that to happen. Mobbing is an opportunity for a team, an Agile team, to come together and have a focus, have a purpose for a time box session, let's call it an hour for argument's sake, where they can explore the software that they've created as a team. They can go and find out more information about that software they've created for their customer as a team. And really, this is the essence of Agile. It's ownership by the team. It's not a mini waterfall. It's a cross-functional team that own the whole journey, that they are delivering value to their customer. So ask yourself this question: why on earth, as a member of that Agile team, would you not want to go and see what the end solution looks like before it goes to your customer, before it's demoed to the stakeholder, to the product owner? This is a great opportunity to come together and explore. So, this is the why. The why you should mob and come together as a team is: 1, it acts as a team building exercise. 2, it allows you to see the software in its entirety. You may come across and you may come out of the session with observations about how your software looked. And there may be disagreements. There'll be different opinions as to whether what's right and what's wrong. But it's discussions, it's that conversations that the mobbing drives, which is really, really valuable. So let's just take a step back. Mobbing again, what is it? It's where everyone gets in a room. Everyone gets in a room with a purpose. And it could be a feature that's been delivered by the Agile team. And everybody has a task to complete in, say, an hour. And each person has a different task. But the thing is, you don't go in a room and you're silent and you test in silence. It's really collaborative. You're all sat round, preferably a round or oval table. You've all got your own goal or achievement or task to complete. But actually, as you're doing that, you're asking questions of each other. As you're exploring the software and capturing your observations, you're firing questions off different people. The beauty of mobbing is you get different eyes on the solution. If you're in an Agile team and the only people testing are the testers or the tester, then actually that's a huge risk, isn't it? The only person seeing and checking and testing what's going to end up going to your customer is a tester. The beauty of mobbing and the whole team coming together to look at a feature is that it brings different eyes onto the solution. A UX designer will see things differently from a developer. A developer will see things differently from a BA. A tester will see it differently from an IDev, and vice versa. So the beauty of mobbing is that it gets all these different eyes onto a solution. And let's face facts, software now is so complex. If you think just about the amount of devices, it's huge. You can't leave that with a tester to sort of try and find all the defects. You can't call a tester in Agile a gatekeeper. It's nonsense. It's the team. It's the team that owns the quality. So the beauty of mobbing is that the team comes together and looks at the solution through different sets of eyes on different handsets, and that adds value. What we've done at Shop Direct is we've just started our mobbing journey, and our definition of a mobbing journey will be different to what you find if you were to Google it. Everybody's got a slightly different definition or meaning. Some people will say a mobbing session is where you have one screen in a room, everyone sits around the table, you have a navigator, you have a facilitator, and everybody's shouting out and saying, no, you should be going to that field, and what happens if you enter that in there? And that's fine, that is a version of mobbing. The version we're experimenting with at the moment is where we get everybody in a room and everybody has a slightly different task. Everybody has a slightly different flow through the feature that we want them to explore. We give them a few bullet points in order to try and achieve these goals on that flow or through that task. But everybody does it on their own devices. But as I say, no one's locked down to silence. No one's locked down to, oh my God, I've got my task. I can't talk to anybody. It's an open and collaborative session. And then we have a session, like a 15-minute wrap-up, where we talk about our observations, what we've captured, what defects need to be raised, what further discussions outside need to take place. Now, what we've seen is amazing things happen with these mobbing sessions. What we've seen is, first of all, the team really value them. The team treat it as a team building exercise. The team see it as an opportunity outside of your typical Agile ceremonies to come together and think about quality and think about their customer. We've had people within the team see the journey or the feature that is under test. They've seen it for the first time in its entirety, or they've seen the complete flow of their the area that they're responsible for. It's the first time they've seen it truly end to end. And they've gone, wow, I didn't know we were responsible for all this. So there's loads of different things for them. We've seen trust and relationships build in the mobbing sessions that we've done. So people get to know each other better. People start to have empathy for each other's roles. And that breeds trust. And that's really important in Agile. And I'm not saying that mobbing can only be done within an Agile team. It can be done regardless of what methodologies you're using. However, it is much simpler and easier to do with an Agile team because they're usually co-located. You're doing all the ceremonies together. You're building up that ownership and that self-governing. And the beauty is there's lots of different disciplines in that Agile team. It's not a team of testers, it's a cross-functional team. And that is really powerful because you want those different skill sets when you're mobbing. You don't want a room full of testers, you want a room full of people who see things differently. And that is another benefit of mobbing. All those different skill sets and the way people think are all coming together to use that software that your user is going to use. Now here's the interesting point, right? So if you think about your user, they don't pick up your software and say, hey dudes, before I start using it, can you send over your stories, your acceptance criteria, your definitions of done? Send them over, I'll give them a read. And then of course, I'll know how to use your software. No, they don't do that. They just use the software. And that's really another additional benefit of mobbing. You're not giving people structured test cases to follow. You're not saying you're not giving them a set of instructions saying click on this and you should see that, click on that and you should see that, because that would drive their opinions. What you're doing is you're just giving them a few bullet points, something to achieve. And a next iteration that we might look at is taking the Agile testing quadrants and taking a story and just giving part of a quadrant to each person. So one person would be looking at quality, performance, one person would be looking at accessibility, one person could look at security, some people would be looking at very structured paths. That's something we're thinking about doing, but the sort of what can be achieved in a mobbing session, wow, the opportunities are completely endless. You could actually, in one of the mobbing sessions, you could take one of the quadrants and you could focus on one specific part of that Agile quadrant. And if you're not aware of the Agile testing quadrants, then simply Google it. It's a great little framework that Lisa Crispin and Janet Gregory put together some years ago. It's been out there for some time. And it's just a pitch and it drives 4 different quadrants. And it's really nice and simple to follow. And a form of mobbing that we might do at a later date is where we pick something in the quadrants and focus the team on it, like performance. So an example, you create a story or a feature, it goes through the team, and the mobbing and the team coming together to mob could be to look at performance, of going through the screens as quickly as possible, or just looking at the flow and how fast you can go as a user from picking a black shirt on a website to actually paying for it. What was the performance and the speed and the usability of that? So the opportunity for mobbings is absolutely massive. And I'm just going to take another sip of this beer because it's actually quite fresh and nice. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at the colour. It's really crisp. Really light. That is beautiful. On a Sunday afternoon, just before you're about to have a spag bowl, which I am, because all my family have decided to go to the pub and have a pub lunch, whereas I've decided to stay here and do this. So I've got the leftover spag bowl from Friday. This is actually quite a good prerequisite. A nice, light, fresh beer. Anyway, mobbing. Let's get back to that. So what are the lessons learned from the mobbing sessions we've done? Well, I think preparation is absolutely key. We're still in our sort of infancy. We're still learning and growing as we go with our Agile journey and mobbing. But what we have realised is in your planning sessions, your 3 amigos, it's really important at that point to plan and say, would a mobbing session be beneficial at that specific point? Instead of just coming in one day and saying, hey, let's mob today. If you're a mature Agile team, I think that's perfectly fine. But if you're on your journey where people are still worried about their roles, their responsibilities, where the team are still finding their feet with ceremonies and the actual Agile mindset, then actually planning the mobbing in advance is probably recommended. Finding a really good room is really important. So a room that sets the tone, a room that's collaborative, a room that's light, it's got energy in the room. So if you have a dark room with sort of really yellow, tingy, horrible lights, it's not probably going to be the best environment. So a room with windows, nicely ventilated, whiteboards, flip charts, lots of space to get up, write stuff down, write observations down as you capture them. Obviously, as I said earlier, a round or an oval table, so everyone's facing each other, feels far more collaborative. And actually getting the testers or the test community to prep the sessions, to prep the topics that you want covering, the goals that you want each person to achieve, and what bullet points you want to write to just guide that person. Getting those sort of check sheets prepared takes time. So make sure you do that. Preparation is absolutely key. And then in the room, have a couple of facilitators to kickstart the session. Usually a 10-minute intro to set the context, to set the why, explain why we're doing it, to G up the room and put energy into the room, really, really important. So a couple of facilitators to do that. Don't forget the snacks. Agile is all about cakes and biscuits, don't forget. So yeah, don't forget the treats. It does act as an incentive. I don't care what anybody says. People love to walk into a room where there's tea, coffee, water, a few biscuits, some cakes, etc. It just relaxes the tone, doesn't it? What we've done is we've also had a Spotify playlist playing while we've been doing the mobbing. So someone needs to just prep a playlist or bring a device that has a playlist on it. Obviously, devices and equipment is important to plan. What's the achievement? What are you trying to achieve here? Is it to be purely working on an Apple device? Well, make sure everyone's got an Apple device. If it's across many platforms, then try and get a blend of devices in the room. Really important. And then what's really important as well is at the end, that wash-up session. So everyone just doesn't get up and go. They actually stop the mobbing session and get together and say, well, what did you find? What were your observations? What should we do with that? That's really important. It's not just a case of, oh, I saw that. It's, well, what does that mean? Does that mean a redesign? Does it mean we've understood the requirements originally? If we showed this now to our product owner and our stakeholder, would it still be right? And it's all right to find stuff in a mobbing session. It's perfectly fine to say, you know what? I think we got this wrong. This doesn't feel like how the story started sort of 2-3 weeks ago. That's perfectly fine. I'll tell you what else is fine as well. You've got to be aware of people's emotions in the room. So put yourself in a UX designer, a BA, a developer, an iDev, a tester. Right, in the previous world of Waterfall, they had their roles and responsibilities. But actually now in a mobbing session, you're actually marking each other's work, aren't you? I know that's a horrible thing to say, but that's how people might perceive it. So if a developer sees loads of defects going up on the wall and loads of people saying, I found a defect, they might start thinking, crap, why have I injected all these defects? What went wrong? Why didn't my unit test catch this? Why didn't the peer reviews? The tester might go on a similar journey. The tester might think, crap, look at all these defects we're finding. Oh my God, why didn't I find these before the mobbing session? But guess what, guys? As I said, software's too complex now for a developer to catch everything on their machine, for a tester to catch everything when they test and check. It's too complex. And as I said, everyone has a different set of eyes and does things differently. So we're looking for the unknowns in mobbing. The knowns should have been captured already. But it's the unknowns, it's the using the software differently. That's what we're trying to catch. And that's what usually comes out with the couple of mobbing sessions we've run. We've seen a hell of a lot of unknowns come out, which is brilliant, fantastic. So don't forget set the scene, do the session, and have that wash-up session after. The best mobbing session I ever saw was in Amsterdam, right? So it was a gaming company, and I'm just going to take a sip of there. Wow. It was a gaming company, and every Friday, the receptionist would, at 2 o'clock, come out from behind their desk, put the bolt across the door, bit of a fire risk, I think, in hindsight, put all the phones onto answer machine for the whole company. And the whole company, of which was about, I don't know, 80 people, regardless of what role, regardless of egos, would come together and would be given a task, an objective to do in a mobbing session. And they'd have 2 hours to do it. wow, it was amazing to watch. And then afterwards, their mop-up session afterwards was actually in the company bar, where they'd have beers and they'd talk about their observations. Now, how cool is that? That's a really mature mobbing session. And actually, as a gaming studio, they got absolutely invaluable insight from different people checking and testing the game, going through different levels, taking on different roles within the game. And the feedback was amazing. So that was sort of an extreme version of mobbing that I've seen from a very mature company. If your company's like us, just starting experimenting with mobbing, then there's a couple of things to bear in mind that I've mentioned in this video. I will try and do more videos regarding tech and things within Agile as we explore and learn ourselves. I'm sure my opinion on mobbing and how we do it will change over the next 6 months. But for now, it's created a bit of a buzz. It's created a bit of excitement within the teams doing it. The teams that aren't doing it are asking, wow, what's this mobbing stuff, man? It sounds cool. So we're just trying to crawl before we can walk and run. We are trying to learn from our failings and our successes. And I'll just bring one of those to life. Because we did a very successful mobbing session, we thought that we could just spin them up and do them whenever. And actually, we can't. We're not in that position yet, and we're not mature enough as an organisation, an Agile organisation. So we have decided to stick with the tried and trusted for now, which is plan the session, look at the planning stages and the 3 amigos, ask the questions in there whether mobbing is right, get the room booked, and go through everything that I've mentioned in this video, setting the context to the people in the room when we get people in there. And because people are still, and I don't know whether other people in the Agile teams come across this, but getting to this place where everyone feels comfortable and don't see themselves as just existing in one column on a Kanban board or a Scrum board, where actually they just go and move to wherever is needed. We are on that journey. We have roles and responsibilities set out, but actually we need to evolve and change to move to where we have specialisms, but people can add value in other stages. And because we are on the beginning of that journey, the mobbing session was interesting. It really did push us to feel uncomfortable, and that's really cool because that's where you learn. We've had loads of successes with mobbing and we've celebrated that, and we've also taken a step back and gone, okay, if that didn't go so well, why was that, and let's learn from it. I think what we've seen is teams come together, really come together in the mobbing sessions and really get behind it in such a positive manner. It's actually blown me away. And the teams that have done it, I've seen them come out and they actually feel, I know this sounds odd, but they almost look and feel stronger as a team, which is really cool. I suppose what they could do to become a stronger team is come and have a beer with me. So I'm going to end this now because it's looking at about 23 minutes long, which feels about right for a video blog, which I'm putting on YouTube. But I'll try and do some more of these. I hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to give feedback. And if your version of mobbing is different, guess what? That's okay. All I've done is relay what our version is. And because it's our version, it's right for us. But if your version is different, don't become a keyboard warrior. Have a chat. Let's talk about it. Maybe after a few beers. But stay in touch. On Twitter, I am @Villabone. I am on LinkedIn. I have my YouTube channel if you want to subscribe. There are some quite raucous beer reviews on there with a bit of swearing in there. And I'm quite pleased that I've managed to do all of this video without any swearing whatsoever. Guys, have a great day. Have a great week. And I'll speak to you later. Thank you.